What's going on, guys? How is everybody doing this evening? Wanted to go ahead and record a video tonight on everything that is transpiring around the NFL and around college football. I first wanted to thank everybody that is consuming this product. Again, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I think it's kind of funny because eventually that saying's going to go out of style, but for now, I'm definitely going to utilize that line, and you guys can even utilize it in your office spaces and whoever you speak with, just say happy new year. I like doing these late night videos, digest the entire day. And the sport of football, the news of the NFL and college football, it really brings inner peace to me. Just discussing all the possibilities for these great franchises. And the thing is about the game of football is that it represents hope. You have a great eye on the future. So even if days like this are really hard, and going through this past year has certainly been incredibly challenging for everybody in the world. This is a great time of hope and prosperity. You look at a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're going to be selecting Trevor Lawrence. And in about 2 or 4 years, or 6 or 8 years, Trevor Lawrence could maybe bring that team a Super Bowl championship. So if you're out in Jacksonville right now and, this past year's been a tough year, you're in Florida, or you're a Jags fan anywhere, you're thinking, damn, just keep knocking down these days, and in several years you can wake up and you could see your football team doing something that's never been done before. So the draft, the coaching change, it's all so inspiring because the future, years down the line, is something that we can all be excited for. And even though that this particular day might not be great, or the next day might be a real struggle, because everybody struggles, the future is tremendous. And I don't want to preach, but maybe I do. It's my YouTube channel. But I just enjoy this time because, again, we get to think towards the future. And we get to be excited about what these teams are going to look like going forward. So, first off, let's discuss the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll go broad NFL with everybody. I'll even talk about the New York Giants at the end of this video. Hope that people, whatever, you're taking a long car ride, you're in your car, or you're just sitting, in a dark living room late at night. You have about a half hour to kill before bed. You take a melatonin, you get ready to go to sleep. Maybe I could put you to sleep, right? But I kid. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this content, and I'm just going to lay out everything that's kind of happened these last few days. A lot of guys are unbelievable on YouTube. They pop one video off, pop. But I'm just going to lay out everything here. All right, so Jacksonville ends up firing Doug Marrone. That did not surprise me at all. This guy is a 1-15 coach. They had Blake Bortles and Todd Wash. And after Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Fournette, the Tom Coughlin fiasco with the players, it was not working out with Doug Marrone. He offered you no hope. That was a no-brainer. You look at Adam Gase. Adam Gase might be decent at schematics. He has a terrible quarterback. His personality is not adequate to be a head coach. He does not care for his players. He does not make good hiring decisions. And he's obviously gone. So let's just discuss one by one Jacksonville. I believe that Jacksonville is bringing in Urban Meyer. And I really want the Jags to stay in Florida. I love having the NFL in Florida. I love having 3 teams there. Jacksonville's fairly easy to get to. You fly into Orlando. The flights there because of Disney World don't cost that much if you get it at the right pace, because that airport's huge, honestly. I'm not making this up. It's cheaper than other airports. Does not mean that air travel's cheap at all. But having a stadium in Florida, you look at that stadium that certainly needs renovations, and this Jags team needs a spark. They've never had a tremendous quarterback. I would say Mark Brunell and Tom Coughlin were their best coach and quarterback combinations. You had David Gerard, who was a decent player. Byron Leftwich, I believe, was in there as well. Blaine Gabbert out of Missouri. He just had that funky release. And he never really panned out with the coaching staff that was there. And that was even really before I started getting huge into the minutia of every single team in the NFL. But you look at what Trevor Lawrence is going to bring to this team, and he brings 6'6". He brings mobility to the position. A very accurate passer, quick release, and just really incredible arm strength. Trevor Lawrence has mobility. He's a winner at every aspect of his life. He's going to go out there. He's a kid from Central Georgia. He's going to go down to Jacksonville. It's a 6-hour drive. His family will be able to watch him. The interesting thing now that we're going to talk about is Urban Meyer. So Urban Meyer, one of the greatest coaches in college football history, won 2 national championships at Florida, 2 with Tim Tebow. He took Utah to a Sugar Bowl. He won a national championship at Ohio State as well. So he's won 3 national championships in his college career. He's exceptional on offense. He's great at putting together a staff. Now let's talk about the good first before we talk about the negatives of Meyer. The good is he's 55, incredibly competitive, doesn't take any bull crap. He's a guy that can evaluate talent. You know, Percy Harvin, Tim Tebow, Riley Cooper, Zeke Elliott, Terrell Pryor. Well, that might have been Jim Tressel. J.T. Barrett, great quarterback. Devin Smith, great college player. All these are elite level college guys. The Bosa twins, whatever. Okay? Great at recruiting. Great college coach. One of the greatest college coaches ever. Not a great college coach, an unbelievable college coach. But you're going to look at Urban, and so he's going to bring competitiveness. Could he put together a staff? If he puts together an elite staff, if he just kind of oversees it, handles the challenges, like the challenges meaning in-game instant review, something Mike McCarthy did not do yesterday. If he just handles the day-to-day operations, the draft, does not overstep his boundaries at all, manages the situation just as a figurehead, brings people in, but lets people run the offense like a Ryan Day, you know, like a Dan Mullen. He lets people kind of do their job. Then Dan Mullen could be very, very good. The Cons know him pretty well. He's going to bring buzz to that city. He's a winner. He does not put up with losing at all. So there's a lot of exciting things for Jacksonville in that regard. This guy's been a winner his whole career. Now the downsides to Urban Meyer, and then I'll give my opinion on the coach and probably what's going to end up happening. So the downsides to Urban Meyer in the NFL are that Urban Meyer, one, he's very competitive, so he deals with anxiety. It's not something that I consider to criticize him for, because anxiety is incredibly serious. I don't criticize him for it. Just when you take into account, it's almost like an injured player at like a guy who has a knee injury. It's like, are they going to be around for several years? And it's scary, you know, with Urban, and I want Urban to be good. And I think that sometimes actually getting back into coaching can help your mental psyche, because it gives you an unbelievable challenge in your life, in your late life. You know, Urban's 55 years old. He's never been to the NFL. He's dominated college football. This move with Trevor Lawrence to bring prominence to a franchise, an expansion franchise that has never, ever gotten to a Super Bowl championship, and that's only gotten the one AFC title game and only has won like 2 playoff games in 20 years. If he ever wins them a Super Bowl, there will be a statue of Urban Meyer. He will be right up there with Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, Tom Landry, Vince Lombardi, Pete Carroll. He will be one of the greatest to ever do it, and he loves the state of Florida. and he loves living there, and he can golf and spend time with his family, and he gets to be in the NFL. And also for Urban Meyer, in terms of a lot of mental anxieties, recruiting is a year-round thing. Going into people's living room, promising things to kids. You have to babysit kids, make sure they're going to class, make sure they're not smoking weed and drinking when they're not supposed to be. And at Florida, there were certainly players that got into trouble at Florida. At Ohio State, there were problems. So in the NFL, luckily, it's a bottom line business. These guys are grown men. They have families. Urban can go home to his family at times. Yes, you still need to scout. But that's why you have $1 million. That's why you have a billionaire funding your coaching staff in Sashi Khan. So for Urban, I think it's even more stressful, and it could be more anxiety inducing to actually, and for every single person it's different, but to not have a task. For him to get complacent in just broadcasting. Broadcasting is a lot of fun. But I think it's even more of I think it's more enriching for you to be in it, for you to be competitive, for you to have something to do. I think is very healthy for the mind. So it just depends what's good for Urban Meyer in this situation, what's good for his mental psyche. In terms of game planning wise, I mean, when you have the best players, his college scheme, I looked at it. It's basic. It's a number scheme, like 7 as a post route. So when you look at the route concepts, it's very good if you're just playing, college or high school. You go 7-1-7 as a route concept. A 7 might be whatever, like an out route or something. I think the evens are in and the odds are out. I kind of forget that. I've never, played or had a playbook, unfortunately. But it's very simple. It goes left to right. So if it's 7-1-7, if it's a route like Z post Z Tiger 7-1-7, the guys from the left, the guy on the left side, the X receiver, or Z whatever, is running a 7. The guy in the slot will run a 1, and the 7's on the other side. You look at Chip Kelly going to the NFL. You look at Steve Spurrier, some of these college coaches. When you don't have the elite talent, you're going to have to scheme. And that's when stress can come in, because you're in Jacksonville, you're going to have to accept losing games, but also the scheme. You're going to have to scheme people up. The coaching in the NFL from the schematic standpoint is even more advanced than college, just in terms of game planning, attacking weaknesses of the other teams. And in college, they do that, but sometimes if you're at Ohio State and you're playing Illinois, I mean, come on, man. It's like, you don't have to put in the greatest game plan. If you're playing Vanderbilt, are you really going to need to put in a heroic game plan, or are you going to be up 40 and then just running the ball the entire second half? That's not going to happen in the NFL. Even the bad teams in the NFL are within a touchdown of you. Everybody has the same level of talent. Okay? So Urban's 55 years old. If I were the Jacksonville Jaguars in this situation, what would I do in this situation? Let's think out loud here for a second. You have Dan Mullen. You have Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson on the board. I think Zach Wilson could be just as good as Trevor Lawrence, especially if you put him on the edge in a very modernized offense. I think Kellen Moore and Zach Wilson together, you add motion into Zach Wilson, an elite passing game. You can get Brent Grimes as the offensive coordinator, maybe make Brent Grimes a head coach. You just need an unbelievable offense, and I think Wilson gives you more upside than Trevor Lawrence in terms of mobility, in terms of throwing on the run, in terms of a modernized scheme. Unfortunately, their offensive linemen are not really fast enough to run like kind of the San Francisco offense. You have Cam Robinson. You have a lot of big guys on that offensive line, and they've played terrible throughout this season. So that offensive line definitely has issues. So for Zach Wilson, he might end up getting crushed back there. I'd still go with a Kellen Moore, and I'd still go with Zach Wilson as my first choice, and that's going to be the answer for a lot of these. I think Kellen's a brilliant offensive mind. I think he's kind of the next guru in this league. And then let's go and rank these guys. I think Arthur Smith is decent. I think Dan Mullen is interesting, but not great. A little quirky. Would Urban rank high on the list with Trevor Lawrence? Maybe, yes. I also would look at, I'd look at Pat Fitzgerald's a professional. The players really get along with Pat Fitzgerald. Still continuing to think about guys. Shane Steichen is interesting. Who is Lawrence or Wilson really going to get along with? Brian Daboll, to me, I don't like it that much. I don't think his personality is incredibly engaging and incredibly interesting and fun. And you need to really develop the quarterback. And yes, Daboll comes up with very modernized schemes, but is Daboll going to be able to hire and lead? And I just feel like Kellen, I feel like Lincoln Riley, some of these young guys, I think can be really elite leaders. Robert Saleh, unfortunately, is not an offensive guy. For this Jacksonville job, I want offense. I don't want Doug Marrone. You know, I don't want like these defensive guys. I want high-powered offense for this job. That's why I'm looking at Lincoln. I'm looking at Kellen Moore. Eric Bieniemy can get an interview. Byron Leftwich can certainly get an interview. Thinking around. It's either got to be a tremendous leader like a Fitzgerald, like an Urban Meyer, or it's got to be somebody like an incredible offensive scheme. But again, I like Kellen Moore. I like motion before the snap. I really like a lot of motion before the snap. You look at Matt LaFleur, what he's done, and if you hire guys from the Shanahan tree, again, like Kellen Moore, like these other guys that run with McCarthy, offensive coordinators are tremendously, tremendously valuable pieces. They're going to be tremendous. I bring in Davis Webb certainly as a consultant to the quarterback position. I would look at bringing in Ken Dorsey. I don't know if Daboll's the lead guy there. Dang, it's tough. It's tough. That's why I'm saying a lot. Because I'm thinking through this out loud. Thinking out loud what's great for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, Kellen would be a great choice to me. He's probably my favorite coach out there. I think Jeff Grimes is a decent leader. Yeah, I like modernized offense. You look at the best coordinators. Who has explosive passing game? Who's young, who's great with schematics. Yes, Daboll is. I just think Kellen's going to be more dynamic. Cooler under pressure. Has dealt with infield situation. Has taken it from the media. I think Joe Brady, that's another guy too. I think Joe Brady with Trevor Lawrence, by the way. Whoo! That would be unbelievable. If Joe crushes the interview. If Joe or Kellen can crush those interviews, that's going to be great. I look at the Urban Meyer hire right now because that's what's supposed to happen. I'm very worried about the hire because, again, you don't have the greatest of players. It's all about the staff that he hires. It's not a complete failure, but it's a mediocre hire. And it's looking like boom or bust, right? And that's boom or bust equals you a mediocre grade. That would be a C for me. Not a complete A, not amazing. But I'm going to look at circumstance for all of these different choices. Let's go on to the New York Jets. The New York Jets at number 2. I believe that you're going to get Zach or Trevor Lawrence. I would firmly do that. You look at Justin Fields. Yes, Fields was tremendous in that game. There is no doubt about it that Justin was unbelievable in that spot. That Justin Fields was tremendous in that game. There is zero debating it. But he's going to have to learn to make intermediate throws. I think that Wilson is better outside the pocket. Wilson's more creative, and his arm angle throwing the ball is more consistent than the loopy release of Fields. I think the pocket awareness of Fields is a huge concern as well. So I think Fields is a decent first-round quarterback. He's the 4th quarterback on my board after Trey Lance. The New York Jets might be favoring Justin Fields. I think that's kind of where they're going to go. The guys that I think that the Jets are going to look at hiring, Arthur Smith, who's a program builder. His dad worked at FedEx. Arthur Smith really did wonders with Derrick Henry. really revitalized Ryan Tannehill, helped A.J. Brown become a really good receiver. And this is a guy that took over a dormant offense and did a tremendous job with it. And his dad is a CEO, so he has great leadership. He does. And yes, you could say that he grew up, he grew up with some fortune or fortunate. You could say he grew up fortunate if his dad's, a CEO. But again, he still deals with problems just like everybody does. So I wouldn't hold that against him. I think it could actually be a great strength that he's done that. And he's been there before. So Arthur Smith, again, don't know a lot about the personality. It's a bland hire. An exciting hire is Matt Campbell. An exciting hire is Pat Fitzgerald. I look at Pat Fitzgerald going to the New York Jets, and Pat Fitzgerald's a program builder with really good defense. You're going to play physical Northeastern football. Could he modernize his offense? His offense usually sucks. That's the thing. You look at Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's a better offensive coach than Pat Fitzgerald. Now, you can always say Pat Fitzgerald has the crappiest recruits to get on offense. Yes, but he's never tried to evolve from that boring level offense that he's had at Northwestern. But yes, you have a very valid reason why he hasn't gotten great quarterbacks and receivers. It's because he's in Chicago, and the academic restrictions on going to Northwestern, you're not going to get the same level of guys that Alabama, that Ohio State, that USC, that Texas get. You're just not. It's a private school, best academic school. He gets the most out of his guys. The players love Patty Fitz. That's something here. There's a huge culture issue here with Adam Gase being left over. You got to fix and put together the pieces again. Who's going to do that? You think Brian Daboll can put together the pieces? I do not think so. You need somebody who can put together pieces. That's why Joe Brady might not work. You look at Matt Campbell, you look at Fitzgerald. I think Fitzgerald is the shoe-in choice for the New York Jets. I think that's the home run hire. If it's not him, you're looking at Matt Campbell. Obviously, Lincoln Riley's tremendous. I don't know if Lincoln's going to take this job. Joe Brady, Matt Rule was run out by Christopher Johnson because he couldn't hire a staff, even though Matt Rule would have been a great coach. And Joe Brady's going to get that advice from Matt Rule right now. I doubt that it's going to happen. Could Arthur Smith put together a staff that's better than Fitzgerald? I don't know. I don't want Daboll. Wink Martindale's a little bit older, never really been a head coach. Fitzgerald and Matt Campbell, and you draft Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence, and you don't look back. That's what I would do if I were the New York Jets. Let's talk about the Houston Texans right now. This is a very rough job. You have no quarterback flexibility. You have Deshaun Watson locked up, so you have no money to spend. You have no draft pick at all. Your receivers are not good. Your offensive line is bad. You have an aging defense with players that are expensive. This is a full-born rebuild, and your quarterback's under too much money. You aren't going to win anything for 4 years. You compete with a really good franchise in the Indianapolis Colts, run by Chris Ballard and Ed Dobbs. The Colts have a very good defense. They have Jonathan Taylor. They just drafted Michael Pittman, who's developing really well. They have tight end play. Frank Reich's a really solid coach. They have quarterback flexibility. They can either train and continue to progress with Jacob Eason out there in Indianapolis, who I still really believe in, or they can go try to trade for a Carson Wentz that has been rumored pretty much in every publication out there. So the Colts are really good. You have Derrick Henry, who's going to be a beast. You have Mike Vrabel, who's a tremendous football coach. And then you have Jacksonville with all these picks, with Trevor Lawrence, and with wide receivers. That team's on the rise. Houston's the crappiest job. Expansion franchise. You're second fiddle to the Dallas Cowboys. You're down there in Houston, Texas. Come on. I love Houston, Texas. I love Mike Jones, Paul Wall. The rap music of Houston, Scarface. Those are some of the best rappers you're ever going to see. The music out of Houston is tremendous. The steak in Houston's great. The people are unbelievable in Houston, Texas. The Rockets game, yeah, they haven't been that filled in terms of people going to the games there. But there are still loyal Texan fans that are around that have experienced some playoff success. So for the Houston Texans, I think the best coaching option that is going to be out there is Eric Bieniemy. I think he's a shoo-in fit with the Houston Texans because you look at Deshaun Watson, the defense is not going to be good. You're going to have to put up big points. And that is why Eric Bieniemy really fits into the Houston Texans because you're going to have a quarterback. You're going to have to rely on outscoring people. Bieniemy's a really good option for the Houston Texans job. If I was Houston, again, this is a very unflattering job to even, it's just unflattering for all the reasons I just listed. But a guy that I would look at targeting that's realistic for the job, and a guy that would stay throughout the long haul is maybe Jeff Grimes. Because, again, he was the offensive coordinator at BYU. I think he would maybe like living in Houston. He would take the job. So you got to hire probably an offensive mind, that guy that really clicks with Deshaun Watson. Kellen Moore is maybe one of those guys. Joe Brady you bring in and try to interview there, and Eric Bieniemy. So offensive mind, again, the culture's okay, but unlike the Jets that don't have the second pick, you're just in a really tough division, and fan base is pretty good. It's okay. And then again, let's continue to talk about this. The defense is going to be a complete mess to clean up. This is almost like a job suicide, this type of job, because you have Deshaun Watson, you have expectations. Bill O'Brien won some games, made the playoffs. This is a brutal job for anybody that's out there that wants to take this job. So if I were ranking the jobs that I'd be interested in, a lot depends on ownership. I look at the Jags and Jets ownership. I think it's okay in both places. I don't think it's great. I look at Atlanta and Arthur Blank, and I might get along with Arthur Blank pretty well. I'm actually excited about the Lions. Let's talk about the Lions job. The Lions, you again, if you win, you're a dang hero. You're up in Michigan. Detroit is getting better and better every year in terms of the city of Detroit. You look at the Lions, Ford Field, you have Moose Johnson, who I think seems like a really good guy just from hearing him on the telecast. He's helping Martha Ford out. You look at Martha Ford, I mean, she's going to give you a lot of power. You look at the power that Dan Quinn and Matt Patricia had, you're going to have power and flexibility. You have a young defense kind of with pieces on this defense. You look at this defensive line, there's kind of some talent with Trey Flowers and stuff on the defensive line. Now, the contracts are going to dry up, but again, you're going to get a lot of time because it's Detroit. You should. You should draft a new quarterback, get rid of Matthew Stafford. You need fresh blood in there. It should be Trey Lance. It's the quarterback that you got to go get Trey Lance. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you don't, you got to get a trade for Jacob Eason, or you got to trade Matt Stafford and tank for Spencer Rattler or Carson Strong in the following year. This is a rebuilding job, but again, let's look at this division. Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay, they're at peak of powers. Chicago's kind of a mess. And then you look at Minnesota is a complete, they have a young defense, but they have quarterback trouble in Minnesota. So Minnesota, again, their coach is all right, but Chicago's definitely a mess, and Green Bay is high, but they're going to get lower. And you look at the difference between the Texans and the Lions. You look at the Texans, they don't really have they don't have an owner right now that has been an owner for more than a year. You look at the stadium's kind of expensive there. You're living down in Texas. It's a college state with the Texas Longhorns. You have the Dallas Cowboys in your own state, and you have a quarterback deal, and you have no draft picks or flexibility. With the Lions, you're going to get a new quarterback, you're going to have new draft picks, and you've never won anything. You look at the Texans, at least Gary Kubiak and Bill O'Brien, they've made the playoffs. So if you lose in the second round of the playoffs, you get nothing out of that job. Nothing. That's why you look at Jacksonville. You have Florida to live in. Jacksonville's a really good job. But then I look at Detroit, and Detroit for me is a little bit interesting. Yeah, you play in an indoor stadium, but again, you could totally create this great culture in Detroit. It could totally be yours. And you can get rid of Stafford and build. And I know I have some good friends out there who love the Detroit Lions and love this franchise. So, again, I think Detroit is very, very appealing for several people for several reasons to build. Now, who in Detroit is going to be a really good head coach? Jim Harbaugh is too close to the situation. He's not going to be going to Detroit. So, who are the Lions looking at hiring? Who would I look at hiring? This is going to be crazy. This job to me is going to be crazy. I'd look at PJ Fleck. I'd give him a ton of money. Because you look at PJ Fleck, Rashad Bateman opted out of the season. Minnesota couldn't even play football because of the virus. You see how the Big Ten had so much trouble, and specifically Minnesota, at playing games and with this virus situation. You look at Minnesota, you look at yourself in the Big Ten, are you ever going to be able to recruit and be elite in this capacity? PJ Fleck's had coaching experience in the NFL. He's a tremendous program builder. He's going to be so exciting. You need to bring life into this team. Kind of like Jacksonville, kind of like the Jets. You need a culture change and you need life. And you need a fun hire. This can get fun. You can bring in Kellen Moore, Kenny Dillingham. You got to be creative and young as young can be. Liam Cohen would be really high on my list. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky that worked with Sean McVay, pretty much has the same resume that Zach Taylor has, and I think Liam Cohen's going to be an even better coach. You can look at Marcus Freeman, who was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, who was lights out, who's going to bring fun. The Lions need a young, engaging players coach, really gets along with the players, and is a forward thinker in this league. And that's why I think PJ Fleck, always critical, always fun, row the boat. The players will love PJ Fleck, I believe. Again, I get people that say he might be too corny for the NFL. But I think Fleck would just be, I've loved Fleck for a very long time. I think Liam Cohen too. I think Liam Cohen's a guy that I even forgot earlier. I think Liam Cohen would be absolutely really fun. And he would adapt, and him and Trey Lance together. Trey Lance, 1,000,000%. Jacob Eason, Trey Lance, or Tank. That's the way it's got to go. And if you don't get Trey Lance, again, I don't believe Fields is going to be that good. You simply draft a good defensive player. You maybe even give your pick away, so you have 2 picks next year. I think that could be genius. You give your pick away to like the Giants or somebody. Genius. Give your pick away to a team that you think is going to be terrible, like Minnesota. You do that. Again, and then maybe you get Carson Strong or Rattler next year. Add some competition for Stafford. I would try to get rid of Stafford, honestly. This is a perfect tank job for 1 year. But again, you get in on the ground floor. You get your own GM. Detroit's a lot of fun. If you win there, you get a damn statue in Detroit. If you win a playoff game, if you host a playoff game, that city will be rocking. That city it'll be the type of city where after that playoff game, if you win, honking horns, champagne, beers flying everywhere, Ford Field, the city of Detroit, it'll be mayhem in a great and positive way. It'll be like after a team wins a World Series, that sort of feeling for Detroit. So Detroit's again, you can get a statue in Detroit if you're a head coaching candidate. But again, you got to like living in Michigan. It's going to be brutally cold. Again, you have Ford, who's the owner. She's going to give you power. But once again, you have to have the resources and you have to have a good idea of what's going on with the future of the franchise. But I think it's a gem in the league, Detroit. I think it could be a lot of fun to go to. Then you look at another job. You look at another job that is incredibly fun. And right now, for 1 second, I have to go get something like some water for 1 second. You guys have made it through 35 minutes of this video. It's going to be about a 30-second to 45-second break, and it's going to help propel me to finish this video. And I hope you guys are, again, just enjoying the content, enjoying listening to this. I'm going to try to make this like 50 minutes. I hope you guys are enjoying how we're breaking down each of these NFL jobs. All right, guys, we are dang back. Let's see how long it took. Pretty much a 30-minute break. Just 2 clicks of your computer and you guys are good to go. That's kind of what I learned from viewing YouTube as well. And now let's talk about the Charger job, which just came open today. Anthony Lynn wins 4 games, and then he gets released of his duties, okay? So for this particular job, you have a great quarterback already. You have defense. You have a previous history of, ironically, getting to the playoffs. With Schottenheimer, you got to the playoffs a bunch. You had Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers. Winslow, I think, was a tight end there for a while. Who else was a really good receiver there? For a long time, you had a couple of really good receivers. Casey Hayward was there. Quentin Jammer, I think, played on the Chargers growing up. So you have Bosa, you have Ingram. Your defense is okay with Gus Bradley, but you have Justin Herbert, who's a star quarterback, 6'6". If we were doing the draft again, he'd be the number 1 pick. So you have him. You have Keenan Allen, who's a veteran, good guy. You also have Austin Eckler, who's a really impressive running back. Mike Williams is good jump ball kind of receiver. Hudson Henry from Arkansas, Fayetteville guy. Gets hurt every year, but when he's playing, he's a pretty decent player. But you have Justin Herbert there. For me, this is actually you have to look at circumstance when you kind of analyze these particular jobs. And Dable in New York, where you don't have a quarterback and where the culture of the defense is just terrible, and when you don't have any winning, New York's an incredibly tough job. That's why I think Pat Fitzgerald or a builder is better for the New York Jets. A builder. I look at Brian Daboll here, and here you just need a guy that's just great at offense. And the interesting thing about Daboll, why this job is perfect, is because Telesco and Daboll are best friends from high school. And that collaboration is going to be perfect. And you look at Josh Allen and how good Josh is, and Herbert is like Josh Allen. And for the Jets itself, if you're bringing in Zach Wilson, Dable will have to sit through a couple of years of progression. The roster's going to be a little bit different. Defensively, can Dable make that? Could he fix a terrible culture? Does he want to deal with Christopher Johnson? For Dable himself, the Jets defense just needs a lot of work. The whole team is really bad. But I look at the Chargers, you bring in Dable, you get your defensive coordinator, bam and bam. You bring the Bill system all the way out to Buffalo. I think it works with Justin Herbert. So I think Dable, because of the relationship he has with Telesco, is a really good move for the Chargers. You bring him in on a 2 or 3 year deal. You try to bring him in cheap. There's a chance it fails because there's a chance that, unlike Lynn, I think Lynn has better interpersonal skills than maybe Brian Dable, who's all the way up in the booth, but maybe Dable proves me wrong. The thing is about Brian Dable, working here, Brian Dable, is that you're going to have Justin Herbert and you have your defense in place, and Telesco's pretty dang good, I think. I think he's an underrated general manager. I like his picks, like Adderley. I really like Kenneth Murray. Been a huge fan of Murray the entire time. On and off the field, Kenneth Murray is one of my favorite players. I mean, he took in a kid that had some issues, and his family helped raise this kid in Houston, Texas. Tremendous story, tremendous kid from Oklahoma, Kenneth Murray, but they end up drafting him and Herbert, and it's a good locker room, a good rookie class. The fact that they didn't quit on Anthony Lynn, they still finished the season out with a lot of integrity. I think Brian Daboll with Herbert, I think that you could just unlock incredible potential there. You look at the Jets, and Daboll, maybe it wouldn't be an F hire or a D hire, but it would be one that I question, again, the interpersonal skills of Daboll to take a team over, like a Detroit hiring Daboll would not be good, but in this instance, it is just a picture-perfect match with a quarterback, a guy who knows Brian Daboll. Again, not the most pressure in the world in with the Chargers in LA. You play like fifth fiddle to USC, to the Lakers and the Dodgers out there. You need to give some fans some fun offense. And Herbert is like a Josh Allen type of quarterback. He is very modern, great with the scheme. He's done an unbelievable job with the Bills offense. Nobody can say anything about it. Last year, building Josh Allen, putting him through the ringer last year, and building this thing, the one thing about Brian Daboll, kind of like Sarkisian, the offense has just been absolutely impeccably good at that location. And what he's done in Buffalo is even more impressive than a Sark, because Buffalo's never had this type of offense. And he took a quarterback that had raw inaccuracy abilities and really played to his strengths and made this offense incredibly aggressive. And that's the one thing about Brian Daboll's offense that is tremendous. And if the Jets get Daboll, the offense will be absolutely attacking style. I love how they attack and how they beat teams like 50-20. I love the offense of Buffalo. It's the most fun to watch because it's all passing, it's all aggressive. It's kind of like Kansas City. I really enjoy watching that offense play. I do. Again, I think the Chargers and Daboll make so much sense. Then you look at Shane Steichen. Does he want to stay on? Probably could. And then Shane will end up bouncing to an incredible job next year. Maybe Denver, or maybe like a great job opening that comes out, like maybe Minnesota for Shane Steichen. Would be a tremendous place for Shane to go. He'll be in the next line of guys, just like Kellen Moore will be. Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen are very similar guys in terms of who are going to be the next guys, because Steichen's done a really good job out with the Chargers. It's a pretty good gig, I would say, the Chargers is. Living in LA and having a new stadium and then having Justin Herbert there, it's really an exceptional job. Then you look, I think, at the final job that needs to be filled. It's the Atlanta Falcons. And Atlanta, to me, is a little bit tougher. Well, you do have Brady, who's going to retire. The Panthers are still building, but the Panthers will probably be pretty good. New Orleans, again, with Sean Payton, how much longer is that thing going to last with Sean? How much longer does he want to coach? He's still younger, but again, he's been there for like 12 or 13 years. So you look at Atlanta, you've had good success there in terms of Dan Quinn, winning some playoff games, getting to a Super Bowl recently, having really good offense, having Matt Ryan kind of get you to the playoffs. But again, with Matt Ryan, you're eventually going to have to get rid of him. And I think Arthur Blank really likes Matt Ryan even more than like a Matthew Stafford, for example. You have very good skill position players. You do have flexibility. You do have defensive talent. I like the cornerbacks still there, like Oliver, like Alford. I like the way that they've drafted, kind of. The O-line has always been a problem at developing there, and you have to see how McGarry and how Chris Lindstrom go, because that was an important draft several years ago. You look at the running game, Todd Gurley is not really going to be around a whole lot longer as your running back. I don't think Ito Smith's really your replacement either. Hayden Hurst is good. You have Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, but again, you don't really have trenches to go on. Your defensive line's not the greatest. You have decent linebacker play, yes, but again, your cornerback play and safeties are going to need to improve, even though I said I liked some of the guys on that roster. Still have talent with Julio. You have Calvin Ridley coming up the pipeline, Russell Gage. So Hayden Hurst is out there. So you still have talent. You put a really good quarterback in that system in Atlanta. Again, it's a decent job. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the Houston job. To me, you look at the Jags and the Jets job. Arthur Blank's a better owner than the Jets. The Jags are interesting. Jags could be really bad if you have to relocate somewhere else. But you really look at that job down in Atlanta, it's an all right job. It's not one of my absolute favorite jobs. But you look at then where Atlanta should go. I actually think you add Dan Quinn, who's a defensive coordinator. I think Bieniemy is a really good possibility in Atlanta. I've seen him linked there. I think he would do a nice job with Matt Ryan. Really give him a chance to kind of implement, some of what Andy Reid's done. I mean, Bieniemy's been the best offensive coordinator now for several years, so he certainly deserves an opportunity to be a head football coach in the NFL. Then you look at other options. I mean, here Saleh would be very interesting. I forgot to mention Saleh in Detroit. I think that's actually a shoo-in that's going to happen. I forgot to mention Saleh all along during this process. But Saleh is not going to get hired. He's from the Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn tree, so it's not happening in Atlanta. Jacksonville, probably not. Saleh's got to hope it's Detroit, or else Saleh's going to get left again, unless Saleh wants the Boise State job or a college job. I think Saleh in Detroit would actually be very, very good. I actually, I mentioned Liam Cohen. I mentioned Kellen Moore in offense. So again, I'm more of probably an offensive person. But that being said, there's great defensive guys that are team builders out there. Like Saleh, I really think is one. Like Pat Fitzgerald, who was a linebacker. Matt Rule's a defensive guy. Tomlin. So Atlanta, though, is going to go offense. You're going to get Eric Bieniemy. You're going to get Arthur Smith. You're going to get one of those two guys. That's how I see it going, and it's a decent job. In terms of best jobs to worst jobs, all right. To me, if I was looking at this list, I would seriously look at Detroit. I think Detroit would be a ton of fun. I look at Jacksonville then. I think Jacksonville's very good. Jags are up there second on the list. Look at the New York Jets. New Jersey, used to that area. You have a lot of flexibility if you can win there. Am I going to pick the Jets or I'm going to pick the Chargers? A lot of pressure with the Chargers, but might go with the Chargers. Then the Jets, and then you look at Atlanta, and then Houston would be dead last. I wouldn't be interested in Atlanta or Houston, to be honest. I would be more interested in a college job than those two jobs. In terms of the GMs, it's going to be interesting. John Elway today steps away. Dave Gettleman returning for the Giants. Should probably make another video on Dave Gettleman, and I'm going to do that right now, and it'll probably be up pretty soon. But this was a 48-minute video, guys. A lot of fun. Talked about everything. There's going to be news breaking, so go ahead and watch this while you can. Get my opinion on where my initial thoughts are, because when these seats get filled with these coaching seats, this video, again, of speculation might not be incredibly perfectly awesome to view, but again, it could take you into the initial window of what I expected and what I wanted.